The evening sun dipped behind the tall buildings, painting the city in a soft orange glow. People rushed past each other, holding coffee cups, phones, and busy thoughts. But among them walked Tanya, a young black girl with tired eyes and a hopeful heart. Her worn-out sneakers slapped the pavement as she clutched her small purse tightly. Inside, it was all she had left. $8. Tanya had been struggling for weeks. She lost her job at the diner 2 months ago after missing too many shifts. Her landlord had already given her a final warning, and the fridge in her apartment held only half a loaf of bread. Still, she smiled whenever she passed people on the street, hoping that life would turn around soon. That evening, she stopped by a small grocery store to buy instant noodles and a bottle of water. It wasn't much, but it would be enough for dinner. As she stepped out of the store, she noticed something unusual. A loud motorcycle screeched to a stop near the sidewalk. The man on it looked terrifying, with tattoos snaking up his arms, a leather jacket with the words "Hell's Angels" printed on the back, and a thick beard that hid most of his face. People around him stared, whispering. A few even crossed the street to avoid him. But Tanya didn't move. She watched as the biker leaned against his motorcycle, breathing heavily. It didn't take long for her to notice the blood on his hand, a deep cut dripping down onto the ground. Without thinking twice, she ran toward him. "Sir, are you okay?" she asked softly. The man grunted, trying to wave her away. "Just a scratch," he muttered, but his pale face said otherwise. Tanya reached into her purse and pulled out a small napkin she had saved from the store. She tore it in half and gently pressed it against his hand. "You need to stop the bleeding," she said. The biker stared at her in disbelief. "You're not scared of me?" he asked. Tanya smiled weakly. "You're just hurt," she replied. "People get scared too easily." He chuckled under his breath. "You're something else, kid," he said. "What's your name?" "Tanya," she replied. "What's yours?" "Blaze," he said with a smirk. "Fitting, right?" Tanya laughed softly, and for a moment, the street noise around them faded. But when she looked at his wound again, it had worsened. The bleeding wouldn't stop. "You need a bandage," she said. Looking at the pharmacy across the street, she hesitated for a second, knowing she only had $8 left in her food money. Her survival, but kindness was stronger than hunger. She ran into the pharmacy and bought a small first aid kit and antiseptic. It cost nearly everything she had. When she came back, Blaze looked surprised. "You didn't have to do that," he said quietly. "You don't even know me," Tanya smiled. "If I were hurt, I'd hope someone would help me too." She cleaned his wound, wrapped it neatly, and helped him stand straight. Blaze stared at her with something like respect. "You're a good one, Tanya," he said. "Not many left like you." He offered her some cash, but she shook her head. "No, it's okay," she said. "Just take care of yourself." Blaze watched her walk away down the dim street, her small frame swallowed by the fading light. He sat back on his bike, eyes still fixed on the girl who had just given away her last $8 to help a stranger everyone else avoided. That night, Tanya ate only the leftover bread. Her stomach ached, but her heart felt strangely full. She whispered a small prayer before sleeping. Maybe one day, things will get better. Meanwhile, miles away, Blaze parked his motorcycle in front of a bar full of roaring engines and men in leather jackets. "You won't believe what happened today," he told them. His brothers looked up, curious. "A girl, a complete stranger, and spent her last few bucks to help me." The room went silent. One of the bikers whistled. "People like that still exist?" Blaze nodded slowly. "Yeah," he said. "And tomorrow, we're going to make sure she knows what that means." That night, a plan began to form, one that would change Tanya's life forever. The next morning, Tanya woke up to the sound of distant thunder. At least that's what she thought it was. Her small apartment shook slightly, and the faint rumble grew louder. She rubbed her sleepy eyes and peeked through the curtain. What she saw made her heart race. Dozens of motorcycles, their engines roaring like lions outside her building. For a moment she froze, thinking maybe trouble had found her. The street below was filled with huge men in leather jackets, their helmets glinting in the sunlight. Her neighbors peeked through half-open windows. Whispering, children on the corner pointed and gasped. It was like a scene from a movie. Tanya's breath caught when she saw Blaze among them, standing next to a black Harley with red flames painted across the tank. He looked up, spotted her in the window, and gave a small nod. "Tanya," he shouted over the rumble, "come down here." Her heart pounded. She quickly threw on her worn sweater and ran downstairs. Every step echoed with nerves when she pushed open the front door. A wave of noise hit her, the revving engines, the smell of gasoline, the wild energy of the bikers. Blaze stepped forward. His usual tough expression softened. "Good to see you again," he said. Tanya smiled shyly. "You scared me," she said. "What's going on?" He laughed. "Don't worry. You're safe," he said. "These are my brothers, my family." He gestured toward the line of bikers behind him. Each wore the same Hells Angels logo, wings and skulls stitched into their jackets. One of them, a tall man with silver hair and dark sunglasses, stepped forward. "So you're the girl?" he said in a deep voice. Tanya nodded nervously. "Yes, I guess," she said. "I just helped him yesterday." "That's all?" The man smiled. "You did more than that," he said. "You helped one of our own when nobody else would." He looked at Blaze and nodded. "Tell her." Blaze took a deep breath. "You didn't know it then, Tanya." "But I wasn't just some random biker," he said. "I'm the regional chapter leader of this group." Tanya blinked, surprised. I didn't know," she said quietly. He smiled. "Exactly," he said. "You helped me without asking anything. You spent your last money on me. And that means something." The bikers behind him nodded, one of them muttering, "Real kindness." "Man." Blaze turned to his group and raised his hand. "Boys," he said, "bring it out." Two bikers revved up their engines and slowly rolled forward. Pulling a small trailer behind them, Tanya's eyes widened as they parked in front of her. On the trailer sat a brand new motorcycle, shiny and black. With her name Tanya written in gold across the side, Tanya gasped, "What? What is this?" she whispered. Blaze grinned. "It's yours," he said. "A gift from all of us." Her hands trembled. "I don't even know how to ride," she said with a nervous laugh. "We'll teach you," another biker shouted. Everyone burst out laughing and cheering. The sound echoed down the whole street. But that wasn't all. Blaze handed her a white envelope. "Open it," he said. Inside, Tanya found a thick wad of cash and a folded note. Her hands shook as she read it. "For the one who gave when she had nothing. From those who never forget loyalty. The Hells Angels Brotherhood." Tears filled her eyes. "I can't accept this," she whispered. "It's too much." Blaze shook his head. "You already earned it," he said. "You showed us what real kindness looks like." Neighbors had gathered now, phones out, recording the moment. Some clapped, others cried. Tanya wiped her eyes. "I just did what felt right," she said. The silver-haired biker placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "And that's exactly why this world needs more people like you," he said. As the bikers prepared to leave, Blaze revved his engine and looked back at her. "We ride across cities," he said. "We've seen a lot of things, greed, hate, fear. But people like you remind us that goodness still lives out here." Then, one by one, the bikes roared to life again. Their engines thundered as they rode off down the street, leaving behind the smell of smoke and the sound of freedom. Tanya stood there, watching them disappear into the horizon. Clutching the letter to her chest, she looked at the motorcycle again, sunlight glinting off the gold letters of her name. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel small or forgotten. She felt powerful, seen, and alive. And though she didn't know it yet, this moment, this gift, was only the beginning of something much bigger that fate had planned for her. A week had passed since that unforgettable morning. Tanya still couldn't believe it had happened. Every time she walked past the shiny motorcycle parked outside her building, her heart skipped a beat. It wasn't just a machine, it was a symbol, a reminder that kindness could echo back in the most unexpected ways. At first she was too nervous to even touch it. She would stand at her window and stare, afraid someone might take it away. Her neighbors still whispered about the day the Hells Angels showed up. Some thought she was in trouble. Others believed she had saved one of them from danger. Only Tanya and Blaze knew the truth. Then one afternoon, as she sat on her apartment steps, Blaze pulled up again. The roar of his Harley shook the ground. He removed his helmet and smiled. "You still haven't ridden it, have you?" he asked. Tanya shook her head shyly. "I don't even know where to start." He laughed. "Well, that's why I'm here," he said. "Time for your first lesson." He handed her a smaller helmet, shiny and red. "This is yours," he said. Tanya hesitated but put it on. Blaze showed her how to start the bike, how to balance and how to throttle gently. At first she wobbled, her legs trembling. Blaze stood beside her, steadying the handlebars. "Easy, kid," he said. "It's not about strength. It's about control." After a few tries, the engine purred under her. She moved a few feet, then stopped abruptly. Giggling, "I did it," she said. Blaze grinned. "You sure did," he said. Now, again, for the next few days. He came by every evening, teaching her bit by bit. The neighbors watched, kids clapped, and Tanya slowly grew confident. Each time she rode a little further, her fear melted away. The wind against her face felt like freedom she had never known. By the end of the week, she could circle the block on her own. Blaze crossed his arms and nodded proudly. "You've got spirit," he said. "That's rare." She smiled. "You believed in me before I did," he chuckled. "That's what family does." The word family echoed in her mind long after he left. Tanya didn't have anyone in the city. No parents, no siblings, just distant memories of a childhood filled with struggle. But for the first time, she felt like she belonged somewhere. One evening, as she was locking up her bike, a woman from the corner shop called out, "Tanya, you got mail." Tanya was surprised. She rarely received letters. The envelope was thick and stamped with a symbol she recognized, a pair of wings and a skull. She opened it carefully. Inside was a note from Blaze. "Hey, little angel, we're having a charity ride this weekend for kids who lost their families. I want you to join us, ride your bike, wear your courage. You've got the heart. Now show the world." Tanya's hands trembled slightly. The Hells Angels were inviting her to ride with them. She smiled nervously but knew deep inside that she couldn't say no. The next morning she polished her motorcycle until it gleamed, put on her helmet, and followed the sound of distant engines. When she arrived at the meeting point, an open highway outside the city, her breath caught. Dozens of bikers stood waiting, their engines rumbling like thunder under the bright blue sky. Blaze waved her over. "There she is," he shouted. The others cheered. "Welcome, little angel," someone called out. Tanya's cheeks flushed with pride. The ride began with the sound of 100 engines roaring together. Tanya followed closely behind Blaze, wind whipping through her hair. The world around her blurred into colors of green and gold. Cars pulled over as the long line of bikers passed, people waving, children clapping. When they reached the children's home, Tanya saw small faces light up. The bikers handed out toys, books, and food. Some of the kids even got to sit on the motorcycles, laughing with excitement. Tanya knelt beside a little girl holding a teddy bear and said softly, "You're strong, you know that?" The girl smiled. "Like you," she said. Those words hit Tanya harder than she expected. Blaze came up behind her, resting a hand on her shoulder. "You made a difference again," he said quietly. That night, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Tanya rode home with the group, her heart full. The air cool against her skin, she realized that her life had changed completely. She was no longer the girl who had just $8 and a fading hope. She was now part of something bigger, something that roared with purpose. And as the engines thundered beneath the stars, Tanya whispered to herself, "Maybe angels do ride on wheels after all." The days that followed the charity ride felt like a dream. Tanya's life had found rhythm again. Her mornings began with coffee and the low hum of her motorcycle's engine, and her evenings ended with the distant rumble of bikes passing her street. For the first time, she felt a strange peace, a sense that she was exactly where she was meant to be. But peace never lasts long in a world that tests the strong. One gray morning, as she was about to leave for a short ride, Tanya found a folded paper tucked under her door. Her name was scrawled across it in bold black ink. "Meet me behind the old diner, noon," it said. No name, no explanation. Her heartbeat quickened. She hesitated, wondering who could have left it. When she arrived at the diner, the alley behind it was quiet except for the buzz of a flickering streetlight. Then she saw a man step out of the shadows, Marcus, her ex-boss from the diner she had lost her job at months ago. The sight of him brought back the sting of long nights washing dishes and the humiliation of being fired. "Tanya," Marcus said with a sly grin. "I see you've been busy," she frowned. "What do you want?" He crossed his arms. "Word around town is that you've been hanging around those bikers." "The Hells Angels," he said mockingly. "Quite an upgrade for someone who couldn't keep a job serving coffee." Tanya's jaw tightened. "You don't know them," she said. "They're good people," Marcus chuckled. "Good people? You really think they helped you for free? People like them don't do anything without expecting something in return." His words cut deep, but Tanya held her ground. "You're wrong," she said quietly. Marcus smirked. "We'll see," he said. "Because someone from the press came by asking questions, and guess whose name came up?" He leaned closer. You. Tanya's heart dropped. What are you talking about? Apparently, he said, someone's writing a story about that little biker gang charity event. And they're curious about the poor girl who suddenly has a brand new motorcycle and cash in hand. She stepped back. I didn't do anything wrong, she said. Her voice shaking, Marcus shrugged. Maybe not. But stories don't need truth. They just need drama. That night, Tanya couldn't sleep. The city outside seemed louder than ever, sirens, laughter, engines all blending into one restless sound. She picked up her phone and texted Blaze. Need to talk within 20 minutes. She heard the deep growl of his Harley outside. He parked and looked up at her window. You okay? He called out. She came down wearing a hoodie and worried eyes. Someone's trying to dig up things about us. She said, about me. Blaze listened quietly, his face unreadable. Who? Marcus, she said. My old boss, he said reporters are asking questions. Blaze sighed and rubbed his beard. Figures, he said. When something good happens, the world always wants to twist it, she frowned. What do I do? He looked at her for a moment, then said, You tell the truth, all of it. The next day, a young journalist named Rachel showed up outside Tanya's apartment, holding a notepad and a recorder. Hi, I'm with the Daily Tribune, she said. I'd like to hear your side of what happened with the bikers. At first, Tanya was nervous, but then she thought of Blaze's words. She told Rachel everything, how she spent her last $8, how she met Blaze, how the group had shown her more kindness than the world ever had. She didn't embellish or hide a thing when she finished. Rachel was silent for a moment. That's actually beautiful, she said softly. You didn't ask for anything, and yet you changed a man's heart. Tanya smiled faintly. Maybe kindness is louder than judgment, she said. A week later, the article was published. The headline read, The Girl Who Spent Her Last $8 and Taught Hell's Angels Humanity. The story spread fast. People from nearby towns began recognizing her on the street. Some offered her jobs, others simply thanked her. But fame has its shadows too. Late one evening, Tanya returned home to find her apartment door slightly open. Her stomach twisted, she pushed it gently. Inside, her things were scattered, drawers open, books thrown on the floor and her purse missing. She stepped back, heart pounding, and then she saw it. On the table lay a single motorcycle patch, black and red with a symbol scratched across it. A skull with broken wings. Not the Hell's Angels emblem. It was from a rival gang. Her hands trembled. She picked up the patch and whispered, What did I get myself into? Outside, a motorcycle engine roared in the distance, not Blaze's, not familiar, rougher, colder. And Tanya realized that her act of kindness had not only changed her life, it had drawn her into a world where loyalty, danger, and courage rode side by side, and soon she would have to choose which one she truly belonged to. The city lights flickered against the night sky as Tanya sat on the edge of her bed, the rival gang's patch lying on her palm like a dark omen. Her heart wouldn't stop pounding. The world that once felt thrilling had suddenly turned dangerous. She picked up her phone and called Blaze. His voice came through, rough but calm. Talk to me. Little angel. They broke into my apartment, Tanya whispered. They left a patch, and not yours, it had broken wings. There was silence for a moment. Then Blaze exhaled sharply. That's the Reapers, he said. They're not the kind of people who leave friendly messages. Tanya's throat tightened. Why would they come after me? Blaze replied, Because you're connected to us now, and because your story made headlines. She frowned. The article? Yeah, he said. You didn't know, but the Reapers in our chapter have bad history. They think we're trying to make ourselves look like saints, and your name's in the middle of it. Fear wrapped around her like a cold fog. So what do I do? She asked. You stay calm and don't go anywhere alone, Blaze said firmly. I'll handle the rest. That night, Tanya barely slept. Every sound, a door creak, a car outside, a gust of wind had made her jump. By dawn, she decided she couldn't live scared. She put on her jacket, grabbed her helmet, and rode her bike out toward the open highway. The air was cold, but it cleared her head. For miles she rode, the road stretching endlessly ahead. Then she noticed something strange. A black motorcycle in her mirror. Following from a distance, she slowed down. It slowed too. She turned left at the next gas station. The bike followed. Her pulse quickened. She parked quickly and walked into the gas station store, pretending to browse the shelves through the window. She saw the biker pull up and remove his helmet. His jacket bore the Reaper's mark. Tanya's stomach dropped. She grabbed her phone and texted Blaze one word, "Here," and pinned her location. The man entered the store, tall, with cold gray eyes and a scar across his cheek. "You Tanya?" he asked. She hesitated. "Who's asking?" He smirked. "Let's just say I heard a story about a girl who made our enemies look like heroes." Tanya backed away slowly. "I don't want trouble," she said. He chuckled darkly. "Trouble already found you, sweetheart." Before he could take another step, the sound of engines erupted outside in a loud, familiar, powerful. The ground trembled as Blaze and 6 other angels pulled into the station. Blaze kicked down his stand, eyes blazing. "Step away from her," he said. The Reaper turned, smirking. "Ah, Blaze," he said. "Always protecting strays. Careful what you call her," Blaze growled. Stepping forward, the air between them thickened with tension. Every biker inside and outside the station could feel it. After a long moment, the Reaper raised his hands. "Relax. I'm not here for a fight," he said. "Just a warning. Your little charity angel? She's on our radar now." He winked at Tanya, then walked out, revving his engine until smoke filled the lot. Tanya's knees trembled. Blaze caught her arm. "You okay?" She nodded weakly. "Who are they, really?" Blaze's jaw tightened. "The Reapers used to ride with us years ago, but they turned dirty. Drugs. Weapons, blackmail. We don't do that. We protect our people. They sell them. So now I'm a target because I helped you?" She whispered. He looked at her, his eyes steady. "No," he said, "you're family now. And family doesn't run." That night, Blaze and a few others escorted Tanya back home. They replaced her broken lock, set up a camera by her door, and stationed one rider nearby through the night. The street felt safer again, but Tanya couldn't shake the feeling that something big was coming. A few days later, Blaze called a meeting at their old warehouse, the Angels' base. Tanya sat among the group for the first time, dozens of rough, loyal faces staring at her with respect. Blaze stood before them. "The Reapers want a fight," he said, "but we're not giving them one. We protect our own and we protect this city. You all know why we wear these wings? Because we rise above the dirt." The room roared in agreement. Tanya looked around, realizing she wasn't an outsider anymore. She belonged to something that stood for loyalty, respect, and redemption. Later, as Blaze walked her out, he said quietly, "You didn't choose this world, Tanya, but now that you're in it, you've got to ride strong." She nodded, her voice steady. "Then teach me how to fight back, not with fists, but with purpose," Blaze smiled faintly. "That's the spirit, little angel." As they stood under the moonlight, the distant hum of engines echoed again, this time more than one group. 2 roars blending in the dark. Tanya looked at Blaze and whispered, "They're coming, aren't they?" He nodded slowly, eyes on the horizon. "Yeah," he said, "and when they do, we ride together." The sky was heavy that evening, painted with dark clouds that looked ready to burst. Tanya stood on the balcony of her apartment, staring at the horizon. Every sound from the street below made her nerves tighten. It had been 3 days since the gas station encounter, and although things seemed calm, she could feel the storm brewing beneath the silence. She looked down at her motorcycle, her golden-lettered Tanya bike, gleaming under the streetlight. It had once been a symbol of hope, but tonight it looked like a beacon that drew too much attention. She turned when her phone buzzed. It was Blaze. "Meet at the warehouse now." Within minutes, Tanya was on the road, wind whipping through her hair as she rode fast through the narrow streets. The city blurred around her until she reached the familiar gates of the Angels' old warehouse. As she parked and walked in, she noticed a tension in the air she hadn't seen before. Blaze was already there with 10 bikers, all serious, faces hard. "They're moving in," Blaze said. "The Reapers have been spotted on the east side, about a dozen bikes deep." "Why now?" Tanya asked, trying to steady her voice. Blaze's expression darkened. "Because someone tipped them off about our next charity run, the one for the kids' hospital." Tanya froze. "They wouldn't dare." "They would," Blaze replied. "They don't care about rules. They just want to ruin what we stand for." The Angel's second in command, a man named Duke, slammed his fist on the table. "We can't let them scare us off, Blaze. You taught us to protect what's right." Blaze nodded. "We will, but we're not turning this into a war." He turned to Tanya. You're staying here tonight, you're not going home. Tanya shook her head. I can't just hide while you all take the risk. Blaze looked at her sharply. You helped start this by doing the right thing. Now let us protect you for the same reason. But Tanya's heart burned with something fierce. You told me I was family, she said. Families don't sit back when danger knocks. Before Blaze could respond, the sound of distant engines reached their ears. Everyone froze. Duke ran to the window. They're here, he muttered. Within seconds, the roar grew louder. A line of dark motorcycles appeared on the far road, their headlights cutting through the night like knives. The Reapers had arrived. Blaze barked orders. No weapons, no panic. We show strength, not fear. The angels poured out of the warehouse, forming a line across the parking lot. The Reapers stopped their bikes opposite them, engines idling like growling beasts. Their leader, the scarred man Tanya had seen before, stepped forward. His voice was cold. We told you to stay out of our way. Blaze stepped up. We don't fear cowards who hide behind threats, the man smirked. You think a girl with a sad story makes you saints? You embarrassed us. He turned his gaze to Tanya, who stood beside Blaze. All because of her, Blaze's tone deepened. You touch her and you'll regret it, the Reaper laughed. We don't need to touch her. We'll destroy everything she stands for. He nodded toward his riders, and within seconds the sound of engines roared as smoke bombs exploded near the warehouse entrance. Chaos erupted. The angels scrambled to protect their bikes. Smoke and shouting filled the air. Tanya coughed, her eyes stinging. She stumbled toward the door, but Blaze grabbed her arm. Stay low, he shouted. Through the haze, she saw one Reaper throw a burning rag toward the line of parked bikes. Flames burst to life instantly, lighting up the dark sky. Tanya gasped. No! Without thinking, she ran toward the fire, grabbing a tarp and trying to smother the flames. Duke ran to help. The air was thick with heat and smoke. Blaze and the others chased the Reapers as they sped off laughing, tires screeching into the night. Within minutes, the fire was out. But the damage was clear. 2 bikes burned to ashes. The warehouse door charred black. Tanya dropped to her knees, covered in soot. Blaze knelt beside her. You okay? She nodded weakly. They did this because of me. Blaze shook his head. No, and they did this because they fear what you represent. She looked up at him, eyes glistening. Then let's give them something real to fear. He raised an eyebrow. You got something in mind? She stood slowly, voice firm. We rebuild. Bigger and louder, we don't hide our light, Madonna. We ride for the kids anyway. Tomorrow morning. Blaze stared at her, then smiled. You've got more fire than any of us. The next dawn came bright and golden. Despite the attack, the angels lined up again. Engines gleaming, flags waving, children waiting at the hospital gates. When Tanya rolled in at the front beside Blaze, the crowd cheered, and somewhere in the distance, hidden in the shadows, the Reaper leader watched with narrowed eyes, realizing that fire couldn't destroy faith. It only made it burn brighter. That day, Tanya didn't just ride. She led. The girl who once had nothing now carried the spirit of hundreds behind her. And as the engines thundered through the streets, the world saw what true courage looked like, wrapped in black leather and gold letters that read simply, Tanya. The morning after the charity ride was quieter than usual. The smell of burnt rubber and smoke still clung faintly to the air outside the warehouse, but the spirits of the Hell's Angels were unbroken. In fact, the chaos of the night before had only made them stronger. Tanya sat on a wooden crate, her jacket covered in soot and dust, watching Blaze and the others repair what the fire had destroyed. Every hammer strike echoed like a heartbeat, proof that no amount of fear could silence their cause. Duke walked over, holding a wrench in one hand. You sure you want to keep doing this? He asked. It's only going to get rougher. Tanya looked up, her eyes steady. I've been through worse, she said. At least now I'm fighting for something. Blaze overheard her, and a proud smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. She's one of us now, he said, and that means no one touches her. By afternoon, the sound of engines filled the street again, not from the Reapers this time, but from volunteers and other riders who had heard Tanya's story in the papers. Dozens arrived to help rebuild the warehouse, mechanics, old bikers, and even locals who had once been too afraid to approach them. An old woman brought sandwiches. A teenager handed out water bottles, and a man in a business suit donated boxes of supplies. Tanya looked around, her chest tightening with emotion. "I never thought people would stand up for us like this," she whispered. Blaze replied quietly, "That's the power of truth, little angel. One honest act can ripple through 1,000 lives." As dusk settled, Blaze gathered everyone around. "The Reapers think we'll fade," he said, his voice calm but fierce. "But tomorrow night, we're going to prove them wrong. They've been running illegal street deals on our turf, and it ends here." The angels murmured in agreement. Tanya stepped closer. "I'm coming with you." Blaze shook his head. "No, this isn't your fight." She met his gaze firmly. "It became my fight the day they burned this place." Blaze studied her for a long moment before sighing. "Fine, but you stay by my side, understood?" She nodded, determination gleaming in her eyes. That night, under a sky full of restless stars, the angels gathered at the edge of the city. Their engines growled low, headlights cutting through the darkness. Tanya wore a black helmet with golden wings painted on each side. "A gift from Duke. For our little angel," he had said. They rode out together, a thunderous wave of light and sound moving through the night. The destination, an abandoned junkyard rumored to be the Reapers' meeting point. When they arrived, the place was deserted. Only the sound of creaking metal and distant crickets filled the air. Blaze dismounted and scanned the area. "Something's off," he muttered. Suddenly, the silence shattered. Floodlights blazed on, illuminating dozens of Reapers circling them, engines revving. The scarred leader stepped forward, smirking. "Welcome to the party." Blaze's jaw clenched. "You've got one chance to walk away?" The Reaper laughed. "Walk away? You think we came to talk?" He snapped his fingers, and his men revved their bikes, surrounding the angels tighter. Before anyone could react, Tanya rode forward, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Stop!" she shouted. The Reaper turned toward her. "Ah, the famous little angel," he sneered. "You started this storm." Tanya met his eyes, unflinching. "No," she said. "You did when you forgot what these roads were about. Freedom, loyalty, respect. You turned them into fear." The Reaper laughed, but his men hesitated. Blaze noticed it. The power in Tanya's words was cracking their control. "You think kindness makes you strong?" The Reaper growled. Tanya stepped closer. "It does when you have people worth protecting." Blaze revved his engine, signaling the angels. "We don't fight to destroy," he shouted. "We fight to protect what's right." Engines roared in response, the air vibrating with energy. The standoff stretched like a wire ready to snap. Then, out of nowhere, police sirens wailed in the distance. The Reapers looked around, cursing. Blaze smirked. "Looks like someone tipped them off." The Reaper glared. "You called the cops?" Blaze shook his head. "Didn't have to. The truth travels fast." As red and blue lights lit up the junkyard, the Reapers scattered, tires screeching, leaving trails of smoke behind them. Tanya stood frozen for a moment before Blaze placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did that," he said. Your voice turned the tide. When the police cleared out, dawn was already breaking. The angels stood on the hill overlooking the highway, tired but victorious. Tanya removed her helmet, the early sunlight reflecting in her eyes. Blaze looked at her and said softly, "You came into our world by accident, but maybe you were meant to." Tanya smiled faintly. "Maybe I was meant to remind it that angels can fight too." The group laughed, exhausted but proud, and as the first light of morning touched their bikes, the roar of engines filled the air once more, not in rage but in triumph. Tanya looked at the horizon, the same horizon that once held only fear and emptiness. Now it glowed with purpose. She knew this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something greater. Because sometimes all it takes is one act of courage to turn the lost into legends and the broken into angels on wheels. The morning sun rose gently over the city, painting gold streaks across the quiet streets. Tanya stood by her motorcycle, the golden letters of her name catching the early light. The scars of last night's confrontation still marked her. A scraped elbow, bruised palms, and 1,000 unspoken emotions swirling inside. But beneath it all, she felt something stronger than fear. Purpose. The Hells Angels had gathered again at the warehouse. Blaze stood in front of the group, his voice steady and proud. "We made our stand," he said. "Not with violence, but with unity. The Reapers are scattered, their power broken. And it's all because one person reminded us what loyalty really means." He turned toward Tanya, and every biker nodded. Duke shouted, "To the little angel." The crowd roared in agreement. The sound filled the air, laughter, engines, and relief all blending into one powerful moment. Tanya smiled shyly, her heart thudding in her chest. "You guys make it sound like I saved the world," she said. Blaze grinned. "Maybe not the world, but you sure saved ours." Later that day, Tanya rode with Blaze along the open highway. The wind whipped through her hair, the hum of the engine steady beneath her. They rode in silence for miles, until Blaze spoke. "You know, when I first met you, I thought you were just another stranger with a bleeding heart," he said. "Turns out you've got the soul of a warrior," Tanya laughed softly. "A warrior with shaking hands," he smiled. "Courage isn't about not shaking, and it's about riding anyway." They stopped at a hill overlooking the city. From there, the view stretched endlessly, the skyline glowing under the afternoon sun. Tanya took a deep breath. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Blaze nodded. "It is," he said. "And it's yours now, too." She looked at him, puzzled. "What do you mean?" He took something from his jacket, a silver pendant shaped like wings, and handed it to her. "Every angel who's proved their loyalty wears one," he said. "You've more than earned it." Her eyes shimmered. "I don't know what to say," Blaze chuckled. "Say you'll keep riding, and keep being the fire that burns through the dark." She clasped the pendant around her neck, feeling its weight, a mix of honor, memory, and destiny. Over the next few weeks, life began to shift. The article about her bravery spread far beyond their city. People called her the girl who rode with angels, and donations poured in for the causes she supported. The Children's Hospital received enough funding for new equipment, and other biker groups across the country began organizing charity rides in her name. Still, Tanya remained humble. She spent her days helping Blaze rebuild their community space, teaching local kids how to fix bikes and reminding everyone that kindness didn't make you weak. It made you unstoppable. One evening, as she was closing the warehouse gates, a car pulled up quietly. A woman stepped out, dressed neatly, holding a microphone. "Miss Tanya?" she asked. Tanya nodded. "Yes, I'm from National News," the reporter said, smiling. "Your story has inspired thousands. People want to know what's next for you." Tanya thought for a moment before answering. "What's next?" "More roads, more hope, and more people learning that helping one person can change everything." The interview went viral, but Tanya didn't let fame define her. The girl who once had nothing now had a purpose, and a family that roared louder than fear. One night, Blaze found her sitting on her motorcycle, staring at the stars. "You thinking about the past again?" he asked. Tanya smiled faintly. "Just thinking about how everything started with $8, he chuckled. "Best $8 the world ever spent." They both laughed quietly. The night air was cool, the city lights glowing below them. Tanya looked up and whispered, "Do you think people like us can really make a difference?" Blaze leaned on his bike. "Kid, you already did," he said. "You reminded us what brotherhood means. You gave a new name to what it means to ride free." She looked at her motorcycle, the gold name still shining under the moonlight. "Then I'll keep riding," she said softly. "Not for fame, not for fear, but for everyone who's forgotten that angels don't need wings to fly." The sound of engines echoed as more bikers joined them on the hill, one by one, until the place was alive with headlights and laughter. The night sky flickered with the glow of chrome and fire. Tanya slipped on her helmet. Blaze revved his engine beside her, and together they led the ride down the mountain, the wind chasing their laughter. From the outside, it looked like just another group of bikers tearing through the night. But for Tanya, the girl who once gave her last $8, it was something more. It was the sound of redemption, the proof that kindness can build legacies, and the truth that sometimes heaven sends its angels not from the skies, but from the open road.